We are going to gather. I see that we have at this moment 47 participants, which is just extraordinary. So thank you all so much for being with us and for caring enough to join us for this. It's really lovely to have you. And many of you are part of our church. Some of you are good friends, and some of you are my best friends. So it's just really nice to have you here. But as I welcome you, I have to say, for me, there's kind of a deep sadness to having to once again call us together for a conversation around race, especially in light of all the horrendous murders and other actions against Black citizens that have taken place over the last few weeks. But I'm not sure that there has ever been a time when the church could have or should have stopped having these conversations. And so here we are, once again, needing to process, reflect, confess, ponder, listen, hear, share, and to be moved to action against what I have really always come to believe is the greatest sin of this country, the sin of racism. So let me just very briefly share the agenda for this evening's meeting. First, we will open with a poem from our congregation's poet laureate, Christina Jimenez. And as lovely as it would be to have each of you introduce yourselves, I know we're just not able to do that this evening. But my hope is that in the days to come, we will figure out ways to continue the conversation that we have tonight. I will then introduce Edith Guffey, our presenter, our leader, and our guide, who will lead us in an opening confessional prayer, and I will invite her to say some words. Then we're going to open it up for your brief thoughts, reflections, and questions. And we urge you to do it this way by raising your hand. And I don't mean this way. What that means is that on your participation button, if you push that, there's a little place to raise your hand. And as that little symbolic hand comes up, then we'll be able to call on you and unmute you and give you a chance to ask a question or to make a reflection. We will try as best as able to share conversation, but with, I was just gonna say, with 50 people, and there you are, 50 people, the struggle is very real. So we will do our best with the idea that we will gather again. We will try to keep this evening's gathering to about an hour, and then we will close with a prayer. And so as we gather, we ask indeed that the presence, the power, the peace, the provocation of the Holy One be with us, and that all the words of our mouths and the meditation of all of our hearts will be acceptable in the sight of God, who is our strength, our guide, and our love. So let's begin. I'm going to unmute Christina and have her share with us a poem that I think has come out of her reflections from the last week or so. But Christina, you may say a little bit more about that. Christina Jimenez.
Hi. Yeah, I wrote this actually some time ago, but I came across it because a friend of mine came by, a persistent friend of mine who insists on keeping contact. So she came by and sat outside my patio, and I was scrolling through my phone trying to entertain her. She said, "Read me a poem," because I had just posted another poem, and I said, "Okay," and I pulled this one out, and it was very appropriate even weeks ago. And then I thought of it again in light of recent events. There's no life without death, no living without breath. You can't appreciate one if you don't embrace the other. But as we navigate this life, there's a spark that we smother. What you been doing? You say, living the dream. But going through the motions isn't as glamorous as it seems. Wake up, go to work, eat dinner, repeat. In the promise of America, there's a modicum of deceit. If you have the means, there is always a way. Willpower is unnecessary if you're able to pay. But even with an endowment, no time is promised. It's up to us to make it count, whether we thrive or subsist. Use your time wisely, don't take it for granted. No matter your status, all life is enchanted. We might all be dying, but dying isn't death. If you want to live fully, then savor each breath. There's no time like the present, no better time to seize the day. Between sunrise and sunset, our time flies away. It is human to get caught in the petty and menial, to work so hard that you forget your own funeral. We're all dying, we're all also living. We might be forgetting, but we are also forgiving. This is all we have. Time is all we have, so take it like a gift. In this time of peril, let's not make a rift. Tear down each wall that separates us and them. Bringing love in your heart is from where it all stems. Extend your hand in peace. It's what Jesus would do to friend and foe alike, no matter their hue. We are all made from dust, and to dust we return. It takes the loss of one life for us all to learn. We can be angels on earth for one and for all. There is a stirring inside us. Don't ignore the call. Love conquers all when we wastefully spread it. Death comes for us all, but don't live like you dread it. To be your better self, live fully the life you're given. It's a hard road to hoe, but have faith and don't give in.
Christina, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you sharing that and your reflections and words. You're always so moving and profound. Well, it gives me great pleasure to introduce, or actually reintroduce, Edith Guffey. So many of you already know her. She feels like such a part of our church community, not only because she's one of my dear friends, but she is such a dear friend of Gables UCC. She first joined us in 2006 as part of my installation as your senior pastor, and then she returned in 2008, and so many times since then, to help lead us in sacred conversation on race, on white privilege, empathy, and so much more. Just quickly, Edith has been the conference minister of the Kansas-Oklahoma Conference of the United Church of Christ since February 2013, and she lives, therefore, in Kansas. In 1991, Edith was elected to serve on the national staff as secretary of the United Church of Christ. And following the restructuring of our national setting, Edith became the associate general minister. In that role, she was actually the chief operating officer of our denomination and the administrator of General Synod. A born Midwesterner, Edith knows the challenges of the marginalized communities, and over the years, she's been a voice in the faith community, encouraging congregations and people of faith to practice hospitality and to extend an extravagant welcome to all people, regardless of race, gender, abilities, economic standing, sexual orientation, and all the other many isms that tend to separate us from one another. To that end, she has extensive experience in conflict mediation and facilitating conversations on race and white privilege and organizational development. And by the way, she is married to fabulous Jerry, and they have 2 grown sons. So with that introduction, Edith has brought to us a prayer, and I'm going to invite you all to unmute yourselves so that you can share in this prayer, which is going to go up on our screen. And Edith, you will lead us in that, if you will, please.
Well, it's good to be with you, and I am grateful for this opportunity, although not grateful for what calls us together again. So let's begin with this sacred prayer of confession. And if you will read the bold pieces, okay?
We
Let's
can't
be in a
see.
spirit of prayer.
We can't see it.
We can't see it.
We could, but it disappeared.
I can see it.
I can see it.
I can
see
too.
it. Screen share again. It brought it back.
Check the other Zoom window.
Okay. Can you see it? Those who can see it, let's join together, okay? Oh God, on this day, we confess that sin of racial hatred and prejudice distorts your divine plan for our human lives. You created us in divine likeness, diverse and beautiful, and every person, every race is your image.
But
too
often fail
to
to
recognize
recognize
and
all.
Forgive us.
give us.
You created us in divine freedom to be. And every decision, every choice is your possibility of justice.
But
Too often
fail
to
choose, advocate for your
justice for all. Forgive us.
You created us for divine abundance, to tend and share in every garden. Every social structure is your seed of community.
Too often we fail to create community, which includes
Includes
all,
us
and gives to all
to all
equal
equal
access
access
to your abundant life.
and life.
Forgive us. Forgive us.
Forgive us.
Open our eyes to distinguish
Good
from
from
evil.
evil.
Open
Open our
our
hearts
to
to
desire
good
from evil.
strengthen our wills to do good.
but evil. We may
We may
us your
your
beloved
beloved
Your beloved community.
Hear the good news. God's grace, God's gift of grace in Jesus Christ forgives us and sets us free to live full human lives in community. We may go forth confident of the grace to see with new eyes beyond racial prejudice, to imagine with renewed fervor for justice and mercy for all, and to create with a new will a community where all are given access to God's abundant life. Thanks be to God. Now, I'd forgotten what it was like to read together in Zoom.
Edith, wait.
Okay.
Yeah, there we
Can you
go.
hear me now?
Now we got you. Yes, thank you. Sorry.
I wrote a letter to the Kansas-Oklahoma Conference last Sunday night. We have only 55 churches in this conference, and all of them are white. We have maybe a handful of persons of color in the conference. And I know it seems hard for you to believe where you live, but I am probably the person of color that many people know. In the small towns of Kansas, where many of our churches are, they are not often in contact with persons of color. So I wrote this piece to them that was entitled, "Can You Hear Me Now?" Because I wanted them to understand and hear what a person of color who is a mother might be thinking. And it was certainly what I was thinking. And I made it that personal because they know me. And I am, for many people, I am the only person of color they know. So I wrote it and it was very personal. And I got back this response from a woman in one of our churches, and it struck me as so honest and so vulnerable that I suspect many white people of goodwill might be feeling. And I want to start our conversation by reading you her letter to me. I have permission to share this. I said without her name, but she said I could share this. I am listening. I say yes. I need and openly welcome education, guidance, and direction. I am ready to face hard truths. I am scared. Scared that I will say or do the wrong thing and unknowingly be part of the problem. Scared of what I will learn about how my actions and thinking, grown and developed in a cultural environment rooted in white privilege, have and continue to be insensitive, ill-informed, and oppressive. Scared that lack of drastic, immediate action by all will result in ongoing horror, oppression, and death. My husband just said, our society cannot continue this way. Something has got to change. I know that I have to face my fears, which are the fears of a privileged person. I do not know what it is like to live in fear for my life or the life of my son or husband. I can't fathom having to teach my son how to behave in the presence of law enforcement. I cannot use my fear as an excuse. My complacency places others in danger. I have a responsibility to say no more. I think I see you. I think I hear you. How do I know for certain? It's hard to see and hear clearly through the filters of white privilege. I commit to no more. I commit to being part of the solution. I commit to seeing and hearing. I pray for the ability to discard the filters of white privilege as I do the work necessary to truly see and hear you. I pray for the strength to recognize and acknowledge the privilege I take for granted and the determination and dedication to use that privilege to dismantle systems of oppression. I commit to education. I will work systemically through the 44 points listed in Reverend Moore's article. I recognize that I am at the beginning of my work and there is far to go. I will pray. I was struck by her ability to say that as clear as she did, especially to name the fear of what she will learn about herself, her fear of not knowing or being afraid of saying the wrong thing and not knowing quite where to go or what to do. And as I have watched the TV, as I'm sure many of you have, day after day after day, wonder how many others resonate with what she has written. And I bring that to this time tonight, to this sacred space, for us to maybe put aside our fears for at least this hour and have a conversation, knowing we are all in different places. We come from different places. We each have different worldviews. But the very fact that you're here says something. There was a time where people would have said that I don't do the work because I didn't work on racial issues the way that some thought I should. I am who I am. But everybody does their work in ways that fit who they are. As we begin our conversation, I hope we always will also remember this is happening in the midst of a pandemic. And that is framing so many things. I personally did not go to the march in Lawrence, Kansas on Sunday night. I really, really wanted to go. I'm having surgery tomorrow. I could not risk going simply because it was not safe for my health to be there. And you know, there may be people that wonder why I wasn't there. I wasn't there because everything is in the midst of this pandemic. We're always in different places on our journey. Everybody is. And I hope tonight we will hold space for that, recognizing that people are here because they want to see a different world and wondering how we will do that. We may do it in different ways, but we all live in the same world. So I'm going to stop because I could probably talk for quite some time, but I want the majority of our time to be for you to talk. So let's start with your people who need to say something, wherever you wanted to have this time. So let's use it.
Thank you, Edith. And once again, if you all will raise your hand, and as I said, it's not this hand, it's the symbolic hand that comes if you push on your participant button, and it will say to wave your hand and we'll call on you. So I see Ingrid Hunter. So I'm going to go to you, Ingrid, and have you reflect or ask the first question. Ingrid, honey.
Hi, everyone.
See if they can hear you.
Hi, Ingrid. Right here. She's okay. You have to unmute her. Oh gosh, honey. Ingrid, you have to unmute. I'm sorry. There you go. Can you unmute? There you go. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, well, I don't know why you have me first on your picture. I did not raise my hand, and at this point, I have no comment.
Oh, okay. So I see a hand there, but it was not. So, Martha, we'll come back to you, Ingrid, if you have something.
Okay.
Martha Diaz, we're going to unmute you here and have you say something if you will. Just 1 second. Let's make sure we get you. Can we unmute her?
I'm unmuted. You did it.
Thank you.
I guess, you know, and you started out by saying it, so I think you're probably going to take us in that direction with the conversation, but I guess my question is how to be an ally when, first of all, my experience is obviously not the same. You know, maybe somewhere else it might be with my last name, but certainly not in Miami, it's not. And how can I be an ally without necessarily talking over the voices of the people who should be listened to? Does that kind of make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a really hard thing. And I think it really depends on where you are and what the situation is. I remember you can be an ally by speaking up when something is said that you know is inappropriate, that's racist, or that's, I mean, just so outrageous. I mean, you can be an ally in many ways. You can be an ally in places that somebody else may never be invited to be in spaces. And so speaking up and making space and saying that. The challenge I think you're saying is, I'm hearing from you, when there are persons of color here, and like African Americans in this case here, how do I speak and not speak when they should be speaking? How do I let them have that space rather than my taking center space? That's the question in some way.
Metaphorically and and literally. Like sometimes you're literally doing it, and sometimes you're, yeah, you've got it. You've got what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get it. And I think there's no pat answer. Every situation will vary. If you are in a big space with a lot of a racially diverse group, and persons are leading that are persons of color, and they are leading, don't try and take it over. You know, don't make it about you. I remember being in a space where my colleagues were not speaking up, and they were saying, well, I want to make space for you to talk. And I said to them, but you know me. You don't have to make space for me. I make space for myself. In some ways, you're not treating me as an equal when you feel like you have to make space for me. So, but that's a very different situation, because I have a relationship with those people. So I think you really do have to say, what's the situation and what's right? And you will sometimes get it wrong. And that's okay. I mean, I always want to say, I'm going to give grace to people to get it wrong, because I know they're working at it. And I will get it wrong sometimes. But always remembering the context, and that there are some people who don't ever have space. And if you are in their space, then it is the time for you to step back and listen. Doesn't mean you have to agree with everything that's being said just because they're persons of color, but to let some folks have their space. And then when they invite people to speak, speak. But every situation is going to be different. And give yourself some grace. You're not always going to get it right. Nobody always gets everything right.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. JD, let's go to you, and you'll just need to unmute, please.
Why I got the sign here that says unmute now.
You are muted.
I really connected with the letter that you had read from the parishioner or person written to you. And my question is, how do you reply back to that person? Because I am a white man, and I know there are a lot of things I don't know. And how do we deal with that more and get more involved and make sure we're not talking over other people that really do have that experience?
I sent her a note back saying, first of all, how much I appreciated her vulnerability and willingness to name what she was naming. And the minute she steps forward and makes that known, other people will step forward, because she is using her privilege in a way that says, I know I'm privileged, I know I have things to learn, I'm afraid, but I'm going on this journey. And the minute people step forward to do that, they're on the road to doing something. And so I thanked her for that. And I said, I suspect you have articulated what many people feel. And giving people, and her allowing me to use her words is a first act of her moving forward. You know, it doesn't have to be a big thing. You're not going to immediately change the world, you know, but taking that first step and acknowledging the fear. There are so many resources that you can commit to. You could, I mean, and I'm leaving Lori, I gave her a whole list of things that she can share with you. Some of them you're probably already doing, but committing to stay the course day after day when it's no longer on TV, people are moved on, and they will, I guarantee you, they will move on. But if you continue to say, we are not moving on, we're moving forward and continuing the work, and just be honest about it. You know, I don't think there's any, I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of to say, I don't know, and I'm afraid. I think what people should be ashamed of is saying, I don't care, and simply ignoring it. So you're here, that's the step. That's the step.
Thank you, JD. Appreciate that. Christy Hayes, you want to unmute?
Did I have my hand up?
You had your hand up.
Oops. I agree a lot with what Edith just read from the letter from her parishioner, and I've been going, and also with what is it Martina? I think Martha said a moment ago. I think I'm struggling with feeling really overwrought and caught up in this moment that's happening right now, and being around people who don't seem to be noticing at all what's going on. And I know people are aware of it, but it's really bizarre to me to come into contact with someone I haven't seen in a week or two and have a conversation and they don't mention it. Or I say something about what's going on and people sort of say, oh, well, what are you going to do? And move on. And I don't know, I find that really depressing. It makes me very sad. On the other spectrum, I've been reading a lot from younger people of color, and one of the accusations or the observations that I've seen is that, and this goes hand in hand with listening and not speaking, is that certain things are performative. And so I guess I'm looking for advice on how to be in solidarity, to be there, to show up at the protests, and for it not to be performative. I mean, I know I should take a back seat to the organizers and the people who are there. But I'm also very conscious of that criticism or that observation that, you know, it's our fight too, but we haven't been in it, and we're trying to be in it, but it's hard to know how to do that correctly.
Yeah. Christy, are you a teacher? Were you the person that, you were at the last conversation, right? And you were a teacher. Is that correct? I remember you. Okay. And I want to say, I have two 30-year-old, 32 and 38. And so we have these kind of generational differences when we talk about race and stuff. But different people will say things about how you choose to show up. But they don't really know your heart. They're making observations about how it feels to them. And the way it feels to them is certainly valid. I would never want to dismiss how it feels to them because that matters. But how it feels to them may not be what it is for you. You may be showing up because of things that you say that are absolutely right. And they may want you to show up in a different way. But you can only show up in the way that who you are. And so that's all I can say is that's that person's opinion. At least the African American community, and I'm sure every community, is very diverse. How you show up may be okay with another person or some other people. How I was showing up as a person of color 25 years ago was not satisfactory to some other people. But I had to be true to who I am. And I knew I couldn't be anybody else. I couldn't be the person they wanted me to be or they thought I should be. You can only be yourself. And as long as you are in your heart, showing up not for performance, but for the purpose that you hold dear, that's all you can do. And you could say, I am very sorry that that's how you feel. I'm very sorry that's how I'm coming across to you. That is not my intent. That is not why I'm here. I don't know anything else you can do, but be true to who you are. You're never going to please the diversity in any community. You simply are not. There may be other people of color that love that you show up and how you show up. Other people may not. And there is a real generational difference. If you watch on the TV even, the reactions to what's going on, there's some generational differences going on too. So, you know, there's some things I'm just gonna say, it is what it is. And you're not gonna always show up in the way, people are not always gonna read how you show up in a way that's going to be comfortable or helpful for them.
Yeah. I mean, I came home, I was being kind of cautious about what I put on social media. And then I just said, oh, to hell with it. And I just started, you know, regurgitating everything I came across that I thought people needed to know. And then today I just sort of, sorry, that's Shaggy. I just sort of did one of those messages that burned any bridges I might have had to people who disagreed with me and said, if this is too much or you think I'm being too political, you know, unfriend me, real life social media, goodbye. And, but I came home from a protest the other day and I didn't know, do I post that I was at the protest? Is that performative? Do I not post? Am I showing other people that they too should come out and be involved in this? Or, you know, is it performative for me to put up my selfie of me at the protest? It's just hard to know what the right thing to do is.
What I want to say is, do whatever you do it for the right reason. You know, do it to encourage, support, challenge people, especially white people, who may want to look away. Because it's easier for them to look away. And sometimes having another white person say, look, this is hard to see, I see it, and this is why. Performa, I don't know, but sometimes getting people to look is important. That's why the title of my article was, Can You Hear Me Now? And I ended up, Can You See Me Now? People need to see. And then if you live in a bubble, you don't have to see. People of color, we don't have any choice. This is the life, this is what we live every day, but white people can look away. They don't have to deal with it every time. But forcing them, encouraging them, pushing people to see, even if it's something they don't want to talk about. If you raise it, they may eventually unfriend you, but you've taken a stand. That matters.
Thank you, Christy. I appreciate that. Judy Habercorn, why don't you unmute and share what's on your mind?
Yes, ma'am. So Miss Edith and Pastor Lori, thank you so much for this forum and this time. I'm sitting here with my wife, Annie, and so we'll do a 2 for 1. I think mine is just a comment. And I think that where I am at in my journey is to call and encourage and ask folks that are white or identify as white to do the work and educate as much as they can themselves. that this is our work to do. This is our responsibility to do. This is not our sisters of color or our brothers of color job to educate us. And so if I have any comment or reaction, I love all the dialogue. I love this forum and I'm grateful for it. It's just that ask that, you know, I think Edith, the last thing you said struck me. You know, I am a lesbian. If I choose to hide that, I can hide that, you know, and that is something that I don't have to face if I don't want to. We don't have that right or an ability as a person of color. And so just that comment, just to really call folks to educate ourselves and to really become knowledgeable. What's the origin of police? Why are they here? How did, you know, I mean, all these intersectionalities that really drive what is going on in our world and what has been going on for 200 years. So just a comment. I know Annie has a much more profound question than I do, so I'll turn it over to her and let her ask.
Hi, everybody. Edith and Pastor Lori, this question is been weighing on my mind as a Christian. I'm trying really hard not to be angry, and I'm trying to like pretty much push down the rage I feel inside. And I mean, there's scripture you can read, there's a lot you can do, but I'm still really angry. How are you guys feeling inside, and how are you dealing with your emotions as a Christian?
Boy. I'm angry. I mean, I don't look angry. I don't talk angry, but the piece I wrote to the conference, I wrote that because I was angry. And I had to say something. Yet, I had to be very careful what I said, because I am in a white conference and I am a woman of color. And so even as angry as I was, even in this situation, I had to be careful, which says something. I simply always have to be careful. And I'm angry, but I kind of live angry, if you want to know the truth. I mean, it's a low grade anger. I learned to modulate it. I'm 60 something years old. Not old enough to remember Romper Room, but I'm 60. So I've learned to modulate it. But it's, I do this work because I'm angry. And so I'm not going to go out and loot. I'm not going to go break a window, but I'm going to work out my anger by doing this kind of work. And especially in the church, where good, kind, caring, white people are oblivious and have made the choice to be oblivious because they can look away. That makes me angry. That makes me angrier than anything. When church people don't pay attention and don't do the work. I don't care about the mistakes you make while you're doing the work. But, well, I care, but you know, but not even paying attention or acting like you don't even care. That is what makes me angrier than anything in the church. And that is what Kansas, Oklahoma is hearing more and more from me, stronger and stronger, almost every time I write. Fortunately, I'm going to retire next year because they're going to get really tired of it. But that's how I deal with my anger.
Thank you, Annie and Judy. I appreciate that. I have a text that came in, Edith, from Carol Craig. What can a white privileged woman do today?
Oh boy, so much. You know, we have this illusion that if we are progressive, we vote the right way, that we're okay. You all saw that lady in Central Park? Did you just sort of, you didn't see that? Some of you saw that. You know, she could be in any one of our churches. She could be in your church. And if you read about her, she did Democrat, active in Obama's campaign, so many things. And look at what she did. So I hate to say this, but white women in particular have to do work, almost as much work as white men, because there's this image of fragility for white women, that it's easy. I mean, let's face it. White women overwhelmingly voted for Trump. That if you look at the statistics, white women speaking up and saying to their friends, look, see what is happening, and get your friends to look and commit and to come along with you in these conversations, pushing them whether they like it or not. White women have so much power if they choose to use it. And their privilege, you know, this privilege can be used for good. Leveraging your privilege with your friends, with your circle, with your family, as a white woman can make a huge difference. You can use your privilege for good. And that's what white women can do, and overcome and push back on that fragility of the white woman who, all she has to do is cry and we're gonna say we're sorry. You guys know you do have that image, right? I mean, white women, you have that image, right? In our community. That's not a secret to you, right? Kind of nod yes or no. You have, that's not a secret. You have that image. Some of you don't know you have that image. You have that image, let me tell you. Not you personally, but as a group. I was on a call just yesterday, a women's table in the UCC that was talking about this, the image of white women and their fragility. And if you don't know about that, then it's important that you learn about it and know why. Because if you look historically, Emmett Till, what did he do? He looked at a white woman the wrong way. I mean, in our history as a country, a person of color, a Karen, she's holding up. There's this thing about Karens, holding up. If you mess with a white woman as a person of color, look out, because you've done it. And you all need to be aware that that is out there, because you need to battle that. And I'm not going to tell you how to battle it. Talk to some of your white women colleagues that are doing the work about what that means and how have you read the book, White Fragility? Look at that book and read it. It's a painful picture, but it's the work to do. So.
Thank you, Carol, for that question. I appreciate it. Sarah Hoffman from Boston, come on in if you're unmute.
I think I'm unmuted. Thank you so much for letting me be part of this conversation. I miss the community so much down in the Coral Gables, and it's been such a inspiring few months to be able to come in and out of the community every week. And to Edith, I'm really grateful to you as well. This very moment, I am at a rally in Boston, and for the most part, it's very peaceful. And I would say 75% people under 25, under 30, which is fantastic, and very multicultural. My question is, I mean, it's very inspiring to see so many younger folks using their voice and appropriately outraged, but also feeling their power. And I'm wondering, how you feel, where you are, how we can encourage young people to use their voices when they keep getting, kind of pushed down and pushed down and pushed down. And I mean, we do have some people like Greta in the sustainability and climate change, and the voices are emerging, or gun control, but ways to really engage the young people who are absolutely the ones who have to be so engaged in this conversation, because it really is all about them. So just ways to support them, I guess, is my question.
I would
particularly young voices of color, but not exclusively. So
yeah, I would actually ask them.
Yeah.
I would actually say, what's the best way for me to stand with you? What's the best way for me? Because what I might think, they might say, no. So ask them what's the way for you to be helpful, supportive. They might say, we need money. We need bail money. I got money. I may not be able to march, but I can write a check. I would just simply say, ask them. Because they are going to be, I suspect, from people that were involved in Ferguson, the lingering trauma for them is tremendous. They're out marching now, but what they experienced from this as a fall, it's going to be traumatic. When I talked to my 32-year-old, he is, it was almost despair on his part. How are we going to come out of this? What's it going to be like as he sees this across the country? He's never seen this before. I saw the 60s. He's never seen this. And so assuring, walking with them, asking them what they need, and just listening and being there. And don't pretend that we have the answers. If we had the answers, we may not even be here right now. We don't have the answers. So at least the answers for today, our answers from 25, 30 years ago, they don't fit these kids today. So that would be my response to you.
Thank you, Sarah, from Boston. You sure are in Boston. Yeah, it's true. She is. Maria, I'm going to have you unmute and come on. Good.
Hello. Hi. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, you're good, Maria.
Okay, good. Sorry, I'm like in the car because I just left the protest. I was downtown. But first I want to just say thank you so much, Miss Edith, for taking the emotional and mental labor to educate and be here and be willing to have these conversations, and I'm so thankful for you. And honestly, the great I think the way you can help young people is 1, donating, 2, showing up, 3, having these conversations that are really hard to have, because they're uncomfortable, and they make you question your own privilege, and they make you feel uncomfortable. I as a white passing Latina, these conversations are hard to have with my family members, but we need to have them. And you may it has already been iterated a couple of times. You may mess it up a couple of times. You may say something wrong, but the point is that this is a fight that is gonna take a minute. We've been fighting this fight for so long that we need to keep going. We need to keep supporting businesses and authors, reading, educating ourselves, marching if you're physically able, and we have a global pandemic as well, so I understand if people are not able to march and protest, but if you are, get out there, and if you can't, donate, read, educate your peers. Honestly, I think it's just a matter of keeping up the momentum and keeping staying outside in the streets and being able to open your ears and listen to the people around you, because a lot of the times I feel young voices we feel a little frustrated because we feel we're not heard. And when time comes to vote, make sure that all of your white Trump friends, they don't vote. They vote for where they're supposed to vote, and they get out to you know what I'm saying, and all those people that don't want to vote, they need to get out and elect better leaders, and that's the end goal. But at the moment, immediately, donate to funds, support Black businesses, and keep fighting the fight. That's all I have to say. Yeah.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes, thank you, Maria. Anything else you want to say to Maria, Edith? She's Sienna's best friend.
Oh, Sienna's best friend. Well, thank you, Maria, for being in the fight. And quite frankly, there are, I marvel at how diverse the group of friends that my 30-something-year-old in Santa Monica is. I mean, very diverse groups. But, they don't talk about race because when they came together, they just coming together, But they have not had these kinds of deep conversations about race. My son certainly knows that when he goes out, he's going to be treated differently than others, but they've not really talked about that. Now they are talking about that in a way that they had all these years. They've not had the kind of conversation, although they've been friends, but now they are talking about that. And I think that's important. So thank you. Thank you for being on this call.
Wonderful. Why don't we take two more and then we'll do a little closing. So Kim, I'm going to go to you, and if you'll just unmute and share your question.
Okay, my question is for Edith specifically, and it's basically, how do you stay positive given the fact that racism is not going to end in my lifetime, in your lifetime, in my children's lifetime? It's always with us. I grew up in the 70s, and our parents taught us everybody's equal, everybody's the same, you don't see skin color, everything's fine. And then we got into our 20s and started getting married, and people's parents didn't come to the weddings. And it turned out they were big fat liars. They lied to us. They were seeing color, and they weren't even coming to their children's wedding because of it. So I have a 20-year-old and a 16-year-old, and I feel like even in their lifetime, there's going to continue to be problems. My daughter only had one boyfriend so far in her life, and he was a Black man. And she, whenever they were together, noticed things like the different treatment, the lack of trust, the fact that because he was a Black man, he was a threat. Now you have got to see how skinny this kid is, and to talk to him and see he's a very sweet, kind person. And it infuriated her. And it's constant, it's all the time, it's not gonna go away. Like, how do you, I feel like you've accomplished something, and there's something that we can actually reach, that there's going to be an end, that at some point it's going to be better, because it honestly doesn't seem like it's gotten that much better, if it has at all, which I'm not sure it has. How do you keep propping yourself up, or how do you not be overcome by the anger?
Oh
God.
We are people of faith. And I think that, I went to the National Museum for Peace and Justice. It's called the Lynching Museum, And I understood in a new way why those gospel songs and the faith, what else did they have to hold on to than the deep conviction that there is going to be a better day someday? And things are far, 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 far from great, believe me. Otherwise we wouldn't be on this phone. But when I think about my father, who had a third grade education, my mother, who was able to get a high school diploma, but she would not be able to do anything like I've had the opportunity to do. So while racism is still so prevalent and so tenacious, we're people of faith. And we are going to keep on keeping on. We have to. We have to. I want life for my children to be better. And it's not going to be better if we just give up. We can't. We can't. Step by step. It's not always an uphill climb. I don't think I don't have my bad days. I have my bad days. I just want to stay in bed. I do not even want to deal with these people. But the next day comes. And the next day comes. And I meet somebody that says, I hear you. I am standing with you. And you get up the next day and you say, thank you, Jesus, here we are again. And we'll go another day. I mean, it's just day after day, step after step. I was in an interracial, I still am, but I was, 22, where they refused to rent us an apartment. Today, they better not even act like they want to not rent me an apartment, because they have no idea what they would get from me today. I'm a different person than I was when I was 22 years old. And that's going to be true for those kids that are in the street today. You're going to have to contend with them. This world is going to change. It's already changing. More people see. I mean, you can argue about what the looting, the violence and everything. You cannot argue about what happened to George Floyd. We saw that. We all saw that. And that will make a difference to some people. I think it's going to change the system in a way, not tomorrow, but I think we're at a tipping point. So, that's why we ground ourselves in faith. You don't have to be in a church. You could be out, you could do the same work in a political organization, same work in a social service organization. What's different here is this is a place of faith, and that's what grounds us. That's why we do the work. So Kim, it's a journey, not a sprint.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Why don't we take one more, and we'll go back to Ingrid, who started us out but said she wasn't quite ready. So Ingrid, if you want to unmute and share your question or thought.
First of all, thank you, Edith, for all your wisdom and all that you've shared with us tonight. I was just wondering, the letter that you sent to your participants, what other type of letters or responses did you get?
I've gotten some, the people that I may have made mad, they don't say anything. I won't hear from them. But, and that's probably for the best. But I've gotten some words of appreciation, words of affirmation. I worry a little bit that some people aren't getting that it's not me, I'm only a symbolic piece. I only use myself as a symbol, not the big picture. So, it's been mostly affirming, but this was the deepest, honest response.
It's a beautiful response. Thank you.
And I want to say one thing about this person who wrote. She's got power. I mean, she's got power in the church where she is. She's got power in the city where she is. And if she takes this up, she doesn't do 110%, she does 150%. If she feels passionate about this, other people are going to listen. And all of you have voices. You all have your sphere of influence. And you may not feel you're making a difference, but you know, it's like planting a seed here and there. And if just one takes root, you made a difference. Sometimes all you can ask for. Lori, before we go, can I ask one question?
Please.
I cannot help but wonder about the people of color on this call. And wonder, you may not feel comfortable in saying it, but I want you to know, I see you. I know it's different for you. And I want to acknowledge that. I want to name that. And maybe someday we'll be able to talk.
Thank you for that, Edith, so much. And I do hope that we will be able to talk in many more ways to all of you. I just really want to thank you. At one point, we had 53 folks on this call tonight. And that says that there is, as Edith says, that's the beginning, isn't it? That you care enough to come on and to at least overhear the conversation and begin to think about and reflect, because something inside of you is calling you to your better self and to whatever you can do and be. And so I thank you so much for doing that. Many of you signed up for this through me. If you did not, would you please send me your email so I know that you were on here tonight? And that way I will send you the information that Edith sent me to give to all of you about resources and so forth. Those of you who came through me and got my little thing back, I have you down. But if you didn't and would like that information, please do that. Also, I will be in touch with all of you about next steps. You know, this has been incredible for me. And again, Edith, I'm always so grateful to you and your wisdom and your ability to come and call us to a good witness. And so I will be in touch with all of you about next steps and what we can do. So, and if you have any reflections or thoughts, everyone else, or ideas or ponderings, whatever, email me and let's see where we go from that. Okay? That would be great. Now, I'd like to close with a prayer, but before we do that, just because I'd love to see everyone, if all of you will kind of come on, and Sienna's going to do that for us. We'd like to just take a quick picture of everyone, just to have a historic memory that we were together. So, can you do that? Perfect. We'll do that. So everyone, all right. There's many more in there. Okay. Smile, everyone. Here we go. And the next group. Yay. And the next group. Yay. That's wonderful. And one more group. Yay. 4 pages. That's incredible. So thank you all so much. And why don't we end with a word of prayer and blessing? Let us pray. Merciful God, we have claimed this night your promise to be with us whenever 2 or more are gathered. You know that each one of us has a unique heart and history. And so as we try to understand all that is unfolding before us, even as it has for generations before us, we pray that you will open our hearts, our minds, and our imaginations and our eyes to truly see the sins of racism and to acknowledge honestly the ways in which racism is perpetuated, the ways in which it thrives systematically and systemically, and the ways in which our actions and words further divide. even amid our very best intentions. O Holy One, we trust your Spirit to guide us to our common life and to enlighten us to the injustices all around us. We give you thanks this evening for the leadership and guidance of Edith and for her important work and the amazing way by which she leads and shares and witnesses to your love. Watch over her in the days to come, and may your healing presence truly be with her. Make our common prayers occasion for your Spirit to break into our hearts and lives, that we may finally see our world with a glimpse of love and light. We pray that we may all be healed of our hurts and divisions, so that we may become agents of the reconciliation and peace that you so desire for this world. For all of these things and so much more, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Friends, thank you again so much for being here. We'll be in touch. Edith, Godspeed.
Thank you all very much.
Be well.
You're my second home.
You are with us always. Good night, everyone.
Night.